Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing all right. It was a busy day at work. Very busy. But I also worked remotely, so I have time to live stream before I have to be an adult again. Woo. Hey, Loadclaw! Hi, Vice, are you winning? Hope so. Are you winning? Oh, that was good. You should have seen me right after work. I'm like, man, I have some stuff to do. I did dishes already, cleaned up the kitchen, and then hopped right onto stream. All right. Astabrook, how's it going? Boop, day off, caught a stream. Well, I hope it's a productive one. Because the theme of this stream is figure out the elements to use in this mod. I am getting awesome feedback. Definitely awesome feedback for systems that I cannot support right now in the mod. And I'm not doing another rewrite so soon because I really need to spend time to nail this down and then rewrite the spells and see where I'm at after the spell rewrite, because I'm going to be touching pretty much all the grimoires. So I gotta nail this down. So, adding more features to the magic mod already? All the time, Load, all the time. So the thing that we have been talking about is this guy right here. Let me make that a little less. These are, I even made this in Paint. But these are the different elements that I could see as a maximum. The idea behind these elements is I don't want like a ring or anything, because it's kind of hard to pick apart a ring. Let me pull up an example here, because like for instance, I like darkness. I like fire, I like electricity, I like arcane. Those are like 4 elements that I like. I've seen some things where it's like, oh, you know, like the metal shames or insults wood, and wood insults, like that kind of stuff is weird to me. That's not exactly like fantasy as I would think of it. You know what I mean? Like, and I want like the darkness. I want you to be like a dark mage or a shadow mage. Maybe I'll call it shadow, right? Like light, it could be like a divine, like, you know what I mean? I can play around with names, but the idea is instead of a ring, you have 2 that are in opposition of each other, right? Fire and water are going to be in opposition. They're on opposite ends here. So if I shoot a fireball at a water elemental, it should do more damage to it. I am thenceforth, evaporating the liquid, right? If I shoot water at a fire elemental, you know what I mean? Like, that's the easiest way that I can think of to where I'm trying to think how to put this. I've been thinking about this on and off. Metal could be a variant of earth, but how am I doing metal? That's the thing. Like this is I'm getting a lot of class ideas and stuff. I can't use any of the class ideas. Right? Like right now, the way the spells are, the grimoires, no matter what I add, it's a global pool, you know? Pokemon damage, types, weaknesses. I guess you could think of it like that. But I just need to nail this down. So what an element's going to do is it's going to spawn fragments, which will be crystals, right? That you will use in decorations and various things. When you reach tier 3, the idea is you will want to use crystals for your element to get bonuses in the things that you do. You will be breaking down these crystals. If I'm a fire mage, I will be breaking down these crystals and using these crystals to, I want to make a basic enchantment system, so you can put, like, you can imbue a sword or whatever to do fire damage on hit. You know, like, you'll be able to do things like that. Like, you will use your element as your identity. You know, so I can attune and become a fire mage. That will be like a subclass, right? So I will get some pros and I will get some cons. Like, if I'm a fire mage, if I go swimming in a lake, well, it's probably going to drain my mana, right? I'm going to have a negative effect because water is not my element. But, you know, maybe you take no fire damage and you can sit in a fire. Maybe I can make it to where if you meditate in active fire, you gain a bonus to your mana. You know what I mean? Like, there are pros and cons for this. I just need to decide, because this is one of those few systems where I need to decide as big of a scope as I can right now, because right now it's going to be easy putting those in. We're talking about generating another texture, right? Adding another type of item to use it. It's not going to be hard. What will be a pain would be to balance everything based on 5 elements, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I want a nature, you know, I want nature element, and I want light element, and I want dark element, and I want electricity, and now I'm going back through and retouching all of these systems again, because I'm going to have to insert these elements in a lot of key places in this mod. Right? So this is go time. This is the maximum that I want to do. Rust in this mod is it's the clear water, right, of this mod. Like, the idea is through the rust all the elements are produced. It's like a primordial magic, right? That's the whole idea here. So the fact that I have rust in the center as an element, it's not going to be an element that means much of anything. I'll try and use it in some other ways, but back from 1 minute ad. Yay, Twitch. Ah, man, Twitch. Already jumping on people with those ads. If it were me, I would lean into the corruption element already present in VS. For example, metal element with corrupted variant of rust, nature with a rot variant. But that's adding complexity to, like, how does that look as a player, right? Like, the idea is you can attune to an element. I can become a fire mage and take on some bonuses that a fire mage can provide me with. I will be able to imbue blocks and stuff with the element, and you will not be locked into these elements. You will have to wait for another temporal storm to change your attunement, but you will be able to change your attunement. You know, this is more for like the RP make your own flavor, right? Because if I want to be a shadow mage, right, and maybe I get some debuffs being in like direct sunlight, right? Maybe in darkness I gain, you know, an increased run speed, or, you know, increased attack, or whatever it is, right? I can also, if I want to go full bore, I want to make sure I have grimoires that can support something like that. Hence, you know, the summon corpse, the swap corpse. I want to put in corpse explosion. I want to do like a necro type of pet, like a, you know, a pet that follows you, right? But I gotta, before I do anything like that, I have to nail these down. That's why I asked in the Discord, I'm like, what's everyone's favorite element? And then I'm not getting, I expected people to be like, I'm a druid all the way, brah, you know, or, oh man, I'm a frost guy, I'm a frost mage. I haven't gotten like anything like that. Depends on how much you want to lean into traditional magic element. Yeah, like I said, I am trying to stick with the rust theme, but hey, right now, gonna be in at least 9 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, but we haven't before. Okay, that sounds good. All right. I'm gonna be getting some ice cream. Yeah, so I gotta think very carefully with, like, because I know how the systems are set up. And something like, okay, so if I do something like, well, if you go with nature, right, and then I'm doing the whole, like, rot and decay, what would fire be? Like, maybe fire would be ash, maybe, you know, but what value is that going to add? If I become a fire mage, how does a system like that look? Because it's one thing to spend a lot of time like coding everything, to not really see much of a result. I don't want to make anything too complex to where it straight up turns people off. Like making a mandatory mage tower is probably going to turn a lot of people off. You know, even if it is for like a minor convenience, people are going to feel obligated to do it. If you want to make a mage tower, just make a mage tower. If I personally, I don't really care that much for mage towers. I would rather make a subterranean lair. I want to be a dwarf. I want to carve into a mountainside, and I want you to walk in, and I want to see the city of Neriak, right? I want cool, like, lighting. I want dark places. I want the sense of danger around, but safety, right? The danger that can't creep up and get to you when you're safe in town. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I would envision myself role-playing. So I'm thinking, well, what elements would work? Like, I think it would be cool if, like, lightning, fire, light, if they all had a passive to where you yourself would just gently radiate, not a lot of light, like you're holding a torch, but a little bit of light at night. You know, you are lit up. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of little things that can go into it. So I have to think with the elements, like, where do I go with it? Do I go with, like, the avatar? Do I do just 4 elements and then... Right? Like, that's it? Like, sorry, you can't be a shadow mage. Nope, you're not getting shadow crystals. You're not going to get any of the decor flavored things. Like, I want torches and, you know, lanterns and stuff that are going to be themed with your element. You know, I want to make different versions of Mana Stone that you can build in for the elements. I want to make different versions of, you know, the Eldrathrium, right? Because I want you to be able to imbue your element into blocks. That way you can play that flavor of whatever element you are choosing, right? So you could have water, fire, earth, air, and rust as primary elements, and then mix them together with different types. So air, fire equals lightning. But see, why would you mix it? You know, like, in what way in, like, tier 3 would mixing an element work in this, you know, in a mod like this without it being too complex? Like, I shouldn't have to write a whole guidebook on, well, if you want to be a lightning mage, you have to do this and then somehow make a new magic system, right, to merge the 2 elements. Why not just have the element outright? Because for all the elements, what you guys don't see is that I very soon will have creatures in this mod. They will be pure elemental creatures. You are going to have awesome floating fire elementals. We're gonna, like, no matter how many elements that I pick now, there will be an elemental version of those monsters. Right? So that's the other side of this. Like, this decision is going to be pretty deep. You know, so I just want to make sure I nail it. I don't want to put something in and then 5 people come up and they're like, "Where's the arcane, bro? You know, why can't I be a druid? I thought you were putting nature in." It's like, well, you didn't chime up. You know, you didn't say anything when I was asking. You know, like, I'm getting cool ideas though. Like, I've actually expanded. I've been doing copying and pasting in a text document so I can keep track of some of the awesome ideas that are coming in. I think playing into, like, time distortions and stuff is a really neat idea. Someone brought up the anti-magic side of things, and that gave me huge Black Clover vibes. I'm like, man, that would be freaking cool, right? But then again, it's like, but something like that doesn't work in a mod where I am adding magic. Like, the goal isn't to deviate between 2 paths, right? Because then that's like 2 separate mods that are using the same mechanics. So having an anti-mage be able to siphon rust, right? At that point, you're just, it's a new element is what it is. You're making a new element behind the scenes called anti-magic, right? So where does that fit in with, like, an elemental based kind of lore? Is there anti-magic crystals? At that point, we're just splitting hairs, right? You just came up with a new element name, right? That's all you did. Right? So this is why I'm like, I need to make this decision, because as soon as I do, I'm gonna have to clean up a lot of things. I'll be doing a lot of that stuff offline. I'm gonna have to touch all my patches for the animals, because I'm gonna have to rebalance things the best I can, right? I'm gonna have to write up new guides on how people can use the new elements if they want to patch other entities from other mods. Like, I got a lot to do. So I got to think carefully. Like, I like the idea of merging an element, but if I want to be a lightning mage, I mean, that's going to be kind of a B. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it could be a cool feature. Like, I like complexity, and I think it would be cool to have to know, like, yeah, to get lightning, because that feels very Thaumcraft to me, right? It's like, oh, I got some of the basic, like, you know, you got your primary colors and your secondary, right? So maybe you could have 4 primary elements and then 4 secondary elements that you would, you know, you would use 2 elements to then go to, you know, the third one. But then again, why would you want to go to, like, an arcane? You know what I mean? Like, if fire gives you the same kind of stuff, just different visuals, right? So how complex should something be? Like, what's the threshold? And I'm getting some stuff here. I'm gonna have to catch up. So you can have water, fire. Okay, I read that one. Based on what you, Vice, said, either in the Discord or a previous stream, I think you said you could always add in element IDs that you personally don't use. What do you mean, element IDs? For other modders to hook into later. But they're in the magic. Well, what I said was I can add to the enum. Like, if someone's like, hey, I want, you know, this particular thing because I want to use your mod as a base, I can add something like that. That doesn't mean that I'm going to use, you know, Happy Rainbow element in my core mod. That means I will put in that enum so you have a hook to make your life easier. Like, that's what I would do. But yeah, we're not rainbow unicorning it up, like, right? You know, if you want to go full Doctor Who and have some time elements, you know, I can put in past, present, future, right? These are just strings. These are just names. But it would make it a lot easier for other people to, like, hook into the system. You can get the things publicly, but you cannot modify an enum. And I could just make it easier for people. But, you know, at the same time, they could just make a new damage source using their own enum like I did, right? But it would just be a lot easier because then you would have to, you know, hook into a lot of other systems. So that's what I meant with that. But my mind just draws the similarity to Thaumcraft, Headcanon. Rust is chaos, pure primordial magic energy, without any particular properties, and all of them are the same. Yeah, pretty much that's kind of what I'm trying to make the Rust, like a primordial... Did you mention Nariak? Yes, I did. I like EQ. Dark Elf, baby! But yes, I usually name my subterranean towns like Nariak. Let's see, so Rust Mage would be a Chaos Mage. Well, not really, because I would see Chaos as something different. Primordial doesn't always have to mean, like, Chaos. Right? That's your origin point. Now, a chaos element could be possible, but very few people have mentioned having a chaos element. You know, but what is chaos really? You know, like, this is where, you know, this is where I gotta start defining things, which I think is why I'm at a standstill right now. You know, I remember Apache was making, like, a chaos mod. Let me tell you this, if I'm making certain elements and stuff, I'm not going to be doing things like, well, there's a chance that you could shapeshift them into a cat, and you know, on impact, and you can. I'm not doing anything like that because it's all about my time to programmatic debt that I would be forcing myself into to make, like, you know, things that random, right? Like all these different random effects that only that one element could utilize. Now you can make the hybrid elements, unlock at higher tiers, explain them in game as learning how to... Yeah, but if you lock it to a higher tier, then that means they're going to probably be more powerful, right? Like, what's the point of, like, well, I'm tier 4 and I unlocked ethereal, right? Or whatever it is. But it doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be fire, which you got at 1. And then you have, like, Guild Wars 2 syndrome where... You know, like, you've been the same element the whole time, and there's nothing new, where other people are like, man, I'm going to be a lightning mage at tier 3, and I'm going to hold out and hop over here. I don't want to make anything obsolete. which is always the thing I ask myself when I add something in. What am I making obsolete, right? Like the mana lantern. That makes torches completely obsolete, but I think by tier 4, you have earned the right to be able to use these mana torches to make all of your stuff better. That's the whole point of being an archmage, right? You are more powerful. You got the nice runes, you got the powerful crystals. You don't have actual real upkeep anymore. You know, like you are literally just like, yeah, man, this is pretty much like a stencil now. Which is something I could add for tier 4. Like I can make permanent runes and call them stencils, right? Like I'm all for convenience for people who have put in the effort. Guild Wars 2 synergy effects were always awesome. Also their ultimate system. Yes and no. Honestly, I got really bored with Guild Wars 2. Like, it was very static. By level 5 to 6, maybe, you know, I'll say by level 8, you have unlocked all the abilities that you're going to use for the rest of the game. You know, like, on my Guardian, I love the the two-handed greatsword. It sucked that, you know, I had the abilities that I had. I only liked 2 out of the 5 of my primary abilities. But that's what I was until I was max level. There's no other flavor. It's how it was, right? Like you know, it's and synergies and stuff. I mean, like it's a very Zergy game. Like you really, you know, see the synergies when you're doing the big scripted dragon event. You know, it's not like big damage, bro. It's more like, all right, you know, you gotta, you know, right? Like that's why like when I play Guild Wars 2, I don't play for that long. I'll go and I'll run the circuit to like kill things, you know, because I'm trying to, you know, level to the max level. So it's like, I could see synergy, but how does it work in this kind of game, right? The systems that I've already built. And you got to think, too, if I add new things, that's going to be training on the player's behalf. They are going to have to figure things out, which means I now have to write more guidebooks. You know? I'm going to have to make a dedicated guidebook as to, like, elements and you, right? Because of your growing body and magic, you will start noticing changes. Weird dreams and, you know, weird magical discharges. Like, I don't want to do that. Trust me, I don't want to do that. Hey Fritz, how's it going? Yeah, air and water, because you're a mage, you learn from nature, so figure out. Now, I mean, why not? I mean, I'm not opposed to putting in... Okay, so I'm not opposed to this. Because I think I'm getting the gist of what you're saying, Zeros. So, I have 4 primary attributes here, right? And sure, you can make crystals out of them in the beginning. But then maybe you could take those 4 attributes and then start combining, because, you know, you got to think of things like building blocks, right? So I could take, like, oh, geez, here. You know, like a fire and, oh, God. I don't even have everything represented here. You know, a fire and a frost, right? Well, for this sake, right? And then somehow I make lightning. So I can combine these to make this. Right? And then I could have a system like that to where, but then again, fire mages will have it easier because there's always going to be the people who go down the path of least resistance. You know, so how do I not turn it to like an inconvenience, right? Because there are going to be people like, well, why can't that fragment just drop like all the fragments dropped before? You know? I wouldn't say the hybrid elements need to be more powerful, just different. But if you are already locked into, like, if I'm already like, oh, fire, right? Fire mage, DPS, baby. What's the point of changing from a fire mage to an arcane mage just to have a different colored spell? You know, like, and you have to put in the extra work now because you're not just getting the fire drops or, you know, those, you know, like easy. You now have to go through and jump through some hoops because you need to use 2 other elements to even start making yours. So if that's not coming with any kind of damage bonuses, that would make fire obsolete, by the way, as an element that you could use. then why, you know what I mean? And this is the problem too. It's like there's a big chunk of me that's just like, you know what? Stick with 4 elements for now, right? Go full avatar. It's going to limit what people are going to be able to do, right? You're only going to have 4 types of crystals to work with. You know, like you're only going to have 4 primary elements. And load, you actually nailed it too. Because a lot of elements means that I now have to try and, like, balance things out. Like, I have a lot more work cut out for it. Which I don't mind, right? Like, I could make it work. Not everything's going to be 100% perfect. We all have our own opinions. And that's why I wanted it to be more of, like, a role-playing choice, right? Like, you are stylizing your choice. Basically, if I become a fire mage, I am locking into the fact that my fire attacks will do more damage than a regular rust mage, even with a focus, right? Like it's like I get a permanent focus, and then if I use a focus on that, I can hit a lot harder. That means that if I run into any of the opposing element, like if I run into any water elementals, I am going to F them up. They're my easy prey, right? Fire, like maybe I make it to where like fire elementals don't attack you when you attune to a fire mage. They become a passive thing, and maybe that's how I can tie in a pet system where you can tame fire elementals, right, as your combat pets, and make a whole system for that, right? But this all starts with, what are those basic elements? I haven't actually played Guild Wars 2 since shortly after release. I keep going back to it. Like I play WoW. Elder Scrolls Online almost got me back, but I'm like, what am I gonna do? A bunch of golems, right? I can't play that game anymore. There's some games where I'm like, I'm done. I'm retired from that game. Write good comments in your code, and then work with ChatGPT to guide all things together, maybe. Yeah, but I don't want to rely on AI. This is a fun project for me, right? Like, I do use ChatGPT, but if you ever notice, it's mainly for names. Like, I'm just trying to be, like, I get stumped on. I know what I get stumped on, and it's like names and stuff, right? If you have too many elements, okay, I read that. If you're a fire mage, why do you have to change? Well, because now, you're using fire, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're tier 2 or tier 3, and you have the lightning element, that you can start, mixing and matching and using. But now, instead of, getting those, like, oh, I need fire crystals so I can get the bonus when I am in my bastion, right? Meditating. Because if I'm a lightning element and you have fire crystals, guess what? It's going to work 50% as good for you. Like, it's going to suck. If you have, like, that's what I want to add. I want to add these crystals. I want to make things actually mean something based on your element. I want you to seek out a fire mage, right? Because you're like, man, there's a lot of water elementals, on the waterfront that I'm on, right? And I could really sure use some resistance to water magic, right? Or resistance to the water element, because I'm going to go hunting them because they drop blank, right? I'm trying to open up different avenues of gameplay with this. Fire mages, well, sure, you could. I'm still going to allow you to put something in your offhand, or maybe as a fire mage, I will allow you to use a straight up water spell. Now I'm going to tell you this. It's going to cost more mana, and it's not going to hit as hard, but I will allow you to cast it. Other elements, like if you try and do a shadow bolt or something, it'll work just like a normal rust mage, right? It's going to be that normal damage. But if you shoot a fireball and you're a fire mage, expect a 25 to 50% increase in the damage of that fire spell, because that is your element. Expect a mana reduction, right? Like, that's going to be a very mana efficient thing, because that is what you are attuned to. That's my thought behind this. I don't want to restrict spells. If you get the grimoire and you want to put it up, like, be my guest. I'm going to be fighting a bunch of earth elementals, so I need wind magic. I can equip wind magic as a fire mage. I don't get bonuses from it. Like if I unless I was a wind mage, right? And then it would be my easy mode. No, I don't mean crystals for the complex elements, but instead of swapping, you attune to another basic element. You can cast basic spells of the new secondary element, plus gain a way to explore new complex magic type. As you get better at the secondary element, you get better at complex ones. Man, that sounds like a lot of work, though, for what reward? Now I gotta make a GUI where you can see how good you are with different elements. You know, and a lot of that stuff, I mean, honestly, it comes down to work as well. How do I want to spend the next month, you know, doing this before I get to spells, or do I want to spend a week on this? Bang out some stuff to where we can all kind of roleplay and at least feel like a fire mage or a lightning mage or whatever elements I choose to put in based on feedback, right? This is the feedback time. You know, like what system is that? Like that's going to be another like tier 1 system. You know, like I mean look at this. I'm running out of tabs. And I don't want to make a book 2, you know, like tier 1, I admit, is a very, it has a high learning curve. Tier 1 does. Tier 2, not so much. Tier 2 was supposed to be more about, you know, manipulating the spells that you already have and improving, right? That's where the prisms come in. That's where the bastion will come in. That's where the transmogrification comes in, right? You are a better mage, so you have access to a little more. Tier 3 was going to be the tier when you would be able to attune to an element. You like fire so much, and you like the aesthetic of fire, become a fire mage. Gain bonuses in those fire attacks, know that you will be taking on some weaknesses, and be okay with those weaknesses based on your playstyle. You know, like, fire mage may actually be hard for me because I love being in boats in the water. Well, guess what? As soon as I dismount, my ass is going in the water. And what's going to happen? I'm probably going to lose some mana, right? Maybe water would hurt me, right? You know, like, it depends on how I want this secondary, because it's really a secondary class with a couple secondary traits. I want to make more armor. Instead of the gears and everything, I want the elemental crystals, you know, on there. I want you to be able to change your appearance to where I look like a fire mage. I have other staves that will be for, like, if you're a fire mage, I want the staff to have a fire mage kind of feel to it. You know, I want you to look at this person and be like, that guy looks cool, you know, that lady, whoever, they look cool. That's a fire mage, right? Like, oh my god, there's a bunch of water elementals, help. Fire mage comes in, right, and just nukes everything. But then again, they gotta run inside because it starts raining. Yeah, so the difference is going to be, well, it's going to be the aesthetics, right? That's really all it's going to be. Like, you will use the water crystals in rituals and stuff, and you will gain, you know, you will actually have a higher chance of success with the right crystals when you're attuned to it. So if I'm a fire mage and I'm using fire crystals, instead of a 10% chance of these getting consumed, maybe it's a 2%, 5%, something lower, right? Some kind of bonus that stops you from having to, you know, to like rebuild each time. You're beyond tier 1. You shouldn't have to rebuild each time. You should be seeing an increase in your power. And I'm saying all this because that's how I have designed things on the back end. You know, like I put in fire, like it's basically going to be a couple keywords, connect a couple dots, change a couple pictures, and then bam, right? You're a fire mage. Honestly, it's very similar to Ars Magica. Ars Magica, I think that's where I got a majority of my ideas from so far, has been Ars Magica. As you use certain elements, you gained, like, I think they called it like an affinity to that element, and then you could become that type of mage. And that came with pros and cons. But that meant that if you were a fire mage, your fire magic did a lot more damage. But then again, if you got hit by a water spell, it did a lot more damage to you. You know, you had to be careful. Your play style has changed. But in the right circumstances, you were a powerhouse. 100%. So, you know, it's like, do I... Because it's easy. It's also got to keep this in mind. It is easier to put in a lot now instead of changing things later, because people are going to get used to the fact of like, oh, you know, there's this many elements. Why are you adding more things, right? It was just like the Rift Blooms. In my earlier streams, as I was making these, I'm like, I want to stack them like a Minecraft cactus. I want that spot reserved because I want potential like fruit or something to go on here. I want to reserve that space. They were never intended to go side by side, but that would have been a lot of extra work, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to keep these. I didn't know if they were going to destroy servers, right? You know, that's a lot of calls. Older 31, thank you very much for the tier 1. I gifted it to Astrabrook. Yeah. That's why I aligned up. And you subscribed. Thank you very much. Enjoy the no ads, right? Everyone gets the emotes and stuff, but enjoy the no ads. Ads suck. I have one other mage on our server. Having each mage locked to elements means most effects won't be available. We won't be able to seek out other mages of a specific element. Well, sure. I mean, that's the case, but you will still have access to those elemental spells. You know, like as a fire mage, I could still cast a water spell. I'm not going to be great at it, but it kind of depends on your skill cap too. A lot of people talk about my creatures mod, yet I have proven time and time again as a clockmaker with flint spears that I could take 3 to 4 of those monsters on at once and kill them without them killing me. They'll get close, but I can kill them. You know, so it's going to be, you know, understanding when to run, when, you know, it's the game, right? Sometimes if you play by yourself, yeah, like I'm still going to want to be a fire mage. We were both trying to watch. We're on Discord discussing while playing. Ads are annoying. Yeah. What I mean is your current attunement is fire grants 50% of fire damage. You don't have a UI that tells you how good you are at fire. Well, then you reach the same attunement to air, which you have a 50% on air, and plus 50 to lightning. I don't know if I'm bad at expressing myself. Well, that's not going to be... Like, I would prefer not to have you gain experience as you're using a particular element. That's going to be a lot of extra stuff. And if someone wants to be an earth mage and they've been using fire all the time because they didn't know something like that existed, and they are, you know, super high and they have to now grind their way to you know, have an affinity towards fire because they want to be a fire mage instead. Or, you know, like I said, well, fire, but they were doing earth, right? And they want to be an earth mage for whatever reason. You know, like I'm trying to... You all are always on me about how hard some of my systems are. I'm trying to make this one easy, right? Like, you pick your element, you can swap your element, you know, just wait for the next temporal storm, make your portal, and walk through it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to have extra GUIs where you got to keep track of things. If I want to be a fire mage, I can attune to it and then just know, hey, my fire is... Hell, I could even put it in the GUI right here. You know, or like on the side or something. Or maybe put like a fire icon here, or, you know, something that shows you like you're a fire mage now. Welcome to the big leagues. You know, that 25 damage spell now became like a 37 damage spell for Fireball. Good luck and Godspeed. You know? Which would still rock things that have... You know, that don't have a resistance to fire, right? Like, I'm still going to be a combat beast to most of the things in the mod. Except for, of course, you know, water elementals. Text explanation equals hard mode life. Yeah. No, not experience. It's just based on your temple, your meditation spot. Well, I would put in, you know, like, you mean like your bastion. I mean, there are some things that you will learn. I will have something in the tooltip here, right? Magic ward. I could put text in there. I've done that with a lot of other things, right? This is resonating. If I hold shift, I could actually see what's connected to it, what the lacrima is, you know, like what mode it's in. I can put things to where, like, this is a fire bastion. You know, fire mages or fire attuned players gain an increase to mana regen. Water, you know, we'll see, 50%. Like, I can put that kind of stuff in there. You could only allow attunement to primary elements if the hybrids are based on them. Then you get a smaller bonus for aligned hybrids. But then you're attuning to more than one element. The system's not going to really support that. I don't feel like rewriting 25% of the mod to include, you know, like, because remember, the way you gain these, you know, all these attributes, I'm going to have to actually edit the spells themselves. I'm going to have to do all of those intercepts for the damage, incoming damage. That way, when you put on resist fire, you actually, and if it's fire damage incoming, that gets halved accordingly because of the buff that you have on. You're going to have a barrier spell. That's going to be one of the ones I'm going to be making when I finally get off this what elements to use, you know, what elements to have, you know? Like, and then I'm going to have to do the interception for that, and then do checks based on the element type, right? The damage type. So there's a lot that will be going into the back end here. No, still only attuned to one. I'm a fire mage, so you get 50% fire. When you get a hybrid, you simply get 25% damage from that. But then what am I gonna? How are you gonna know you're one of each? Like, I don't want to overly complex something that I don't even have a basic thing in for. You know, like maybe that's a tier 4 thing. You could pick a secondary element, and you gain a 25% boost from that. Although that could also be the offhand system. Maybe you don't have to attune. You can still choose to use like a earth offhand and gain a 25% bonus to your earth skills just by having that in your offhand. You know, so if you're cycling back and forth between those two elements, you know what I mean? Like, there are other ways to do that besides an attunement system. Hell, I can put these modifiers on armor. This could be a whole part of, like, the enchantment system that I want to put in. You now have elemental resistances. You know, I can make the systems for that stuff. All right, so I'm just trying to think, like, it's one thing to be like, you know, just theory craft and talk about it, but I also have to think, well, Jesus Christ, how am I going to write that code? How am I going to get it to actually do A, B, and C? You know? This has been one of the harder decisions in this mod. Definitely harder, because I keep going back and forth because there are great arguments for each thing. You know, like, I mean, having 4 elements, like 4 different fragments that fall, I mean, Jesus Christ, like, it would make things a lot easier. You know what I mean? Like that. But then again, people are going to miss out on some of the, you know, some people like to actually build with some stuff. Like something like this, these gravity crystals, gone. If there are 4 elements, you are not keeping gravity crystals, because that is an element. Gone. So if you want to build with it and make something look pretty based on whatever theme you want, you don't got it anymore. You know, lightning crystal, if lightning's not one of the main elements, gone. You know what I mean? That's the kind of decision that this is. So having 4 elements would simplify things. It could also feel pretty restrictive. You know? That's the balance that I'm trying to put in. That's why I said, you know, all of these, because imagine, right? You can have a torch for each one of these. I would have to call it like an ornate torch and not a mana torch at all. Or else people are going to try and use these in rituals, and I am not opening up that can of worms. But I want to put a fire, you know, I want to use my water. They're both blue, right? So it should just work with neutral. That's not how programming works. Like, that's not how it's gonna work. I have to manually do checks for all those different blocks. That's not happening. Put that torch back on the wall where it belongs. You put it in that torch holder. Yeah, you still haven't built tier 3 yet. Expanded elements when you're building the higher tier material after you establish your revised based elements. But why? Then this is my counterpoint to that. I haven't. You are 100% right. Tier 3 is not in. I need to decide on what these elements are going to be to even start working on tier 3 attunement. Not piecemeal. Like, this is the thought. Tier 1, to get to tier 1 to tier 2, you have to use the sigil and you peer back through the void. To get to tier 3 from tier 2, you are going to build something. You are going to put those crystals around, and you are going to wait for, drumroll, a temporal storm. So if you make something like this, right? I'm gonna make a little makeshift thing here, right? And it's gonna be something small, a small little, like almost like a druid ring. Like, it's not gonna do anything until the temporal storm hits, right? Something like this, right? Whatever this is going to look like. Pretty crystals up here, pretty crystals up there, maybe a mana torch or something. Temporal storm hits. I will do a check for this stuff. Now it's going to be like a portal, right? And then you're going to attune to it by walking through it. And if you meet the requirements of a tier 3 mage, you have the minimum mana, you will attune to be a fire mage. And bam, you unlock tier 3. Now I'm going to give you the passive ability, right? Like, you're going to get another of these abilities here for tier 3. And it's going to be to imbue the element you pick into things. This is where you'll be able to make, like, if I'm a fire mage, I'll be able to make special pickaxes that, instead of using durability, I can charge and imbue with my fire mana. Right? Like, I can make spears and stuff, right? I can actually start making weapons and stuff that I can then trade with other people. Maybe they would have an enchantment because a fire pick and a fire mage, maybe it has a chance to auto smelt, or, you know, do something unique, whatever that looks like. You know what I mean? Like, now fire mage in tier 3 has become my identity. I am focusing on something. And if, you know what, I don't want fire, I tried it, you know, I want to be a water mage, right? Well, let me wait till the next temporal storm. Let's break all this stuff down, right? You know, put all my crystals up. The next storm hits. It is now a water portal, and I walk through it, and bam, you know, like, that has changed my element. I want you to be able to change elements without much issue. Right? The price you're paying is time. Time and some resources. Because you got to wait for a temporal storm. You know, so this is how I'm envisioning your jump from tier 2 to tier 3. And then for tier 4, I want to come up with something unique as well. Right? Like, you are ascending to an archmage. What does that mean? You are attuned to an element. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be like Chrono Cross, and then the second element opens up, or I don't know, right? Like, but I haven't done anything with tier 3, and I need to get these elements in line. I am happy to put in elements that people want to roleplay as. Like, I like necromancers, right? Like, I like to play them in EverQuest. I like Shadow Knights, you know. I like conjurers in EverQuest too. You know, I like fire mages. I like frost. I like arcane. There's going to be a lot of things that I like to do. You know, but I want to pick something that's going to be like my identity. I want armor that's going to look like a fire mage outfit. You know what I mean? So you mix elements upon crafting, upon casting, I mean. Okay, so say you're a fire mage. Okay, don't make lightning spells. Make it that you hold in air transmutator on the offhand. The spell attribute mixes and the result spell is lightning. So you're talking about generating a lightning orb by having like an air with a fire, right? Like I'm a fire mage, I hold an air, you know, air thing. Okay, so there's another part of this that I don't think I explained, but does have a pretty big hit on this. So I think I want to change the polymorphic kind of spells. I think it may have been a mistake to put in, like, not a mistake per se, but at the time it was a good idea, right? Because I felt like I was trapped to the elements that the game already had, the damage types, and I tried to make the best out of a not great situation, right? I felt like, okay, well, at least it's something and it can feel magic-y still. You know, that's why we have gravity and heal and poison and, you know, come on. Like, who the F wants to be a poison mage, right? Like, come on, bro. There's probably someone out there who's like, I'm gonna give you an upset stomach, you know, but... You know what I mean? But it's hard, right? Like, I have the idea of, let's say you make Frost Orb, right? I can make this a couple ways. I think I want dedicated grimoires of attack spells. You know what I mean? Like, Rust Orb could be one of the spells, right? And then maybe you could either take a Rust Orb and then you can make a ritual for it. You know, maybe not a ritual, but geez, where's my stuff? You know, something like a world magic thing, right? You put down your fire crystals, draw your pattern, you throw the book, and then you throw enough fire crystals or whatever crystals you want, and then you can transform that and attune it, right, into, and this is what I was hoping to get into tier 2, right? You attune your element to a spell, and then tier 3, you attune yourself to an element. And then your offhand that you would make gives you a damage boost to whatever that element is. So if I have a fire offhand and I have the fireball spell, then that fireball spell is going to do more damage. And this should also help with people having bad RNG. You know, if you have a crappy grimoire, you know, at least you can put, you know, something like a fire focus in your offhand, right? And you can, but at that time, you will be able to see, like, oh, that's a good Rust Orb. I can use that to make, you know, an arcane blast spell, or, you know what I mean? And then you would attune it, throw the book out, bang, and then you have a new element-specific book. You know, but it's something that you have crafted in here, and I don't want to rely on synthesis too much. You know, like, it doesn't make sense that you can discover every single spell. I want to make unique ways of you unlocking things, right? You are imbuing your fire magic into some spells. Not all spells are going to have it. Like, it doesn't make sense to have Summon Corpse be a fire attribute, right? Like, what the heck is that going to do? Limit you? You know, make the spell suckier? Poison Mage sounds awesome. I knew there was someone out there. I knew it. So I had alchemy. Man, I want to make an alchemy mod too. I have so many things I want to make. Somehow let the crafted poison you make influence. You know, if you want poison, become a nature mage. Become a druid, because I was going to give them bio, you know, and do a damage over time. But I mean, all bets are off now because I don't even know what elements to put in anymore. I don't know. I just don't know. I think it would be cool to see a lot of different elemental types. Is it going to get stale having only 4 elements? You know what I mean? I just don't know. Is it going to be too much seeing a lot of random elementals? I mean, to my knowledge, the spawning system isn't the most fleshed out in this game. You know, there's how do you do it? So I don't know. I was hoping to get an answer. Honestly, this is definitely one of my favorite streams. I like streaming when I'm just talking, right? And I'm reading your chat, right? And I'm getting ideas, and maybe fart magic isn't the best one, Oder, but these are, I mean, you all have some really good ideas. And I think it's awesome, but it's like at the stage the game's at, right, or the mod is at right now. I mean, I can't afford to split off and make like a classes mod for Magic. I can't throw away the elemental system that I have in the game now, which I want, by the way. I want elements. I want a Magic feel. I don't want to lean into this whole time warp thing because honestly, the base game doesn't do it that well either. You know, like if you put something in the game where server owners are intentionally shutting off because there's no benefit to it and it just sucks, then, you know, that's a problem. I want people to use these systems. I think temporal storms are freaking awesome in this game. You know, like the effects are cool. The riffs are amazing. Gotta use them. Time to go. Sorry, I was waiting for you to come back. All right, everyone. Continue this chat in the Discord. I'm getting some ice cream. I think the place up the road has Dole Whip. And I think they have a cherry Dole Whip that old Vice is going to be tasting. Put your Mandela of Spiky, Elemental Urchin, Pain. Eventually, just for now, worry about core elements, make it work. Well, see, that's the thing. It will work. I already tested with water. Water's in right now. It works. That's what I'm getting at. That's why I'm like, well, people just gives me, you know, either a bunch of people say, yeah, we like all of these. I want to be an electricity mage or whatever it is. I just connect those dots and all of a sudden we got those spells. The damage modifying system and everything is already in and working. I just need to literally make the enum and parse out making some new items, update a couple textures, and the projectile spells will need. I'll need to make new shaders for some of them. That's it. That is it. So, Twitch. Let's go to Twitch. Twitchy Twitch. 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 Who is playing Vintage Story? Vintage Story. I'll probably be on Discord in about maybe an hour. Actually, maybe a little less than an hour. What do we got? We got quite a few people. Quite a few people. Ooh, anyone doing anything mod? Oh, we got someone here doing things with mods. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I'm looking for the mod tag first. We got a dad here. Ooh, I think I may throw it to the dad. Yeah. Yep, we're gonna throw it to the dad. I don't think I've rated this person yet. And they do speak English, I think. We'll see. Yep, they have the English tag. All right, everyone, exclamation... Oh, no, it's not exclamation. It'll be /raid. Sir Yaba. All right, everyone. Good chat, definitely. Thank you for watching. Maybe I go just pure avatar. We just have 4 elements. Then the thing is, there's no guarantee that these elements are going to change anytime soon. You know? I thought by pairing things up and having oppositions, it would make piecemealing elements easier than, you know, a system where it's like, you know, the whole star and, well, you know, metal's gonna insult wood, right? And then it's like, well, I want to add another element. Well, how am I breaking the chain? No matter what I do, someone's gonna be pissed. So I just want to get ahead of that, right? I want something where I could just dynamically change to. And that's why I'm thinking, like, light and dark oppositions hurt each other. Fire and water oppositions hurt each other, right? Wind and earth hurt each other. But let me know what you think. Again, I will be reading everything on Discord. And I mean, let's bang this out. I would love to have something usable by this weekend. But thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.